All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for this weekly connection. We're going to connect with the Zohar of the portion Beshalach, page 347. All right, let's have Ellen read the synopsis, please.
Rabbi Shimon explains that in the verse, is Hashem among us or not? The word not refers to the most concealed atik of all, which is called ayin. Yisrael were trying to discern between ayin and zer and pin because Yisrael tested God, making a separation between atik and zer and pin. They were punished. Then came Amalek.
אמר רבי אבא, מהי דכתיב היש השם בקרבנו, אם אין, וכי טיפשין הבוא ישראל דלה ידעי מילדה, והחמו שכינתה כמיהו, וענני כבוד עליהו דסחרון, לון ואינון אמרו, היש השם בקרבנו אם אין, גוברין דחמו זין יקרה, דמלכהון על ימה. ותננן ראתה שפחה על הים, מה שלא ראה יחזקאל, אינון השתכחו טיפשין, ואמרו, היש השם בקרבנו עם עין. Go ahead.
Rabbi Abba said, it is written, is Hashem among us or not? Was Israel fools who did not know this? They did not see the Shekhinah before them and the clouds of glory that surrounded them, that they said, is Hashem among us or not? These are people who saw the shine of the majesty of their king by the sea. And we have learned that a maidservant saw at the sea what the prophet Ezekiel never saw. It seems that they turned to be fools to say, is Hashem among us or not?
Thank you. I think it is fair to be a little tolerant, I would say, with the Israelites. Although they have reached incredible level of prophecy and whatnot, especially in this portion, because it says, no other nation would ever witness and experience what this nation has went through, with all the 10 plagues and all the miracles and the splitting of the Red Sea and the revelation on Mount Sinai. This is a generation that has experienced living miracles. Every day there was miracles. But why is it that we should sort of like be compassionate with them and not judge them? Because look at where they're coming from. They came from Egypt after 200 years of slavery. And many commentators, they are talking about Egypt and the Israelites being slaves, but it's not the type of slavery that is described literally. It is the slavery that is actually connected to physicality, like when a person is a slave to honor, or to pride, or to money, or to fame, or recognition, or approval, or self-esteem. If they have those things, they feel powerful and they feel like they can do anything. They are invincible and they manifest all sorts of great things. And if they don't, that is when everything crumbles and everything falls apart. And so what we read here is that those people are asking the question, מהי דכתיב היש השם בקרבנו עם עין? מהי דכתיב היש השם? Is there God? Is he or is Hashem amongst us? And the translation בקרבנו עם עין, it's not with us, it's a mistranslation, and it's only when you study Kabbalah that you understand the meaning of ayin that I just highlighted here. And Ain is connected to Arik and Pin, which is basically the three spheres in the upper world, more connected to Keter, Chochmah, Binah. And then Zeir and Pin is what they elevated themselves to. But when they have connected to all those miracles, they really touched, tasted Ain. And so when they are saying, is God amongst us, together with Ain, it's like it's in a question mark. It's not really like they're not making a statement. They are doubtful. And so, there are all sorts of ways to ask questions. And I've mentioned this before. There is the light's way to ask a question, and then there is the snake's way to ask a question. And when you ask a question that is aimed or its purpose is to be constructive and to be educational and to be pushing towards growth or helping somebody in distress, this is a question that comes from the light. When it is a question that is instilling doubts, uncertainty, or lower self-esteem, or demeaning a person, causing another individual to feel not valued or not worthy, those questions are obviously not coming from the light, they're coming from the snake. So one takeaway that I would take from this is how to ask questions. What meaning, what consciousness is instilled in our questions? As I ask the question, it's not necessarily popping up in our mind, but maybe today you had a discussion that started with a question and ended in an argument. And very often, if a question ends into an argument, you can almost be certain that the initial question was instilled with a bit of Amalek. Amalek, we know by now, although it is characterized by a nation, it is a code. It is a code for doubts and uncertainty and all the like. And so this is my first takeaway. My first takeaway is when you are about to ask a question, turn your tongue 10 times in your mouth. That's a French expression. I don't know if you use the same in English. If we use the same in English, but we need to really mark a pause. And before we ask our question, and if we are in a haste to go and ask that question, that's a good sign that we needed to restrict and not ask the question, because likely the chance, if we are reactive when we're asking a question, it's not coming from a good place. So coming back to the text. So those people have encountered, witnessed all the miracles for 365 days. Because it says that the 10 plagues, even though it sounds like, like within a few paragraphs in the Torah, in the interpretations, the commentaries, it says that the 10 plagues actually lasted for 365 days. The most famous of those miracles were the 10 plagues, but there were hundreds of them. And each and every single day, those people needed proof after proof after proof that there was something that was bigger than what they had in Egypt. Because even though they were slaves of the 1%, they were slaves beyond things that were physical. They were slaves emotionally, they were slaves spiritually, and they just didn't believe that there was something first bigger than themselves, or even worse, bigger than the magic or the mysticism of the Egyptians. So it says that the Egyptians, they were very esoterical and very mystical people. And in many ways, they could see as, competing with Moses and Aaron. But they were no match, because they were not competing really with Moses and Aaron. They were competing with the Yud Kevavke. They were competing with that aspect of the Creator that was connecting them to Zeir Anpin. And so every single day, those people were given the honor, were given the chance to witness miracles. It reminds me a story. It's not a story, it's a real event, actually. I had a student from Europe, and at least every week or every other week, he would experience crazy miracles, but always connected with health. So somebody who is somebody in his family or close to him that was falling sick, and he would ask the Rav at the time that was pre-stroke to pray for the person. The Rav would pray for the person and say the person is going to be fine tomorrow, everything is going to change, and everything is going to go back to normal. And sure enough, and so sure enough, there was there was a miracle. One second, my voice. And so a bunch of us we asked our teacher, the Rav, back then, it was like 15 years ago, why is this guy experiencing so many miracles? Like, it's abnormal. First of all, it's like, from one aspect, it's a lot of miracles, but at the same time, it's not like you experience miracle today and you find the soulmate. You experience miracle and you win the lottery. You experience miracle, you find the dream job or whatnot. Kind of miracles that were all tied to some level of chaos. And so the Rav said, because this guy, this student who is a very close student, is praying, he's connecting, he's meditating, he's generous, he's doing charity and volunteering, but he consistently needs reinforcement of the existence of the Creator. And you're talking here about somebody that has been 25 years in spirituality, in Kabbalah and whatnot. And so when you have a conversation with that person, you would think you're talking to like, that's it, that guy finished his tikkun. Meaning, not that he's dead, but finished his tikkun in a way that he's very wise, he has an answer for everything. And so that was the answer. And the answer was very insightful, because that is the essence of this portion. In the essence of this portion, it doesn't matter how many miracles the Israelites are witnessing and experiencing firsthand. The next day, they doubt Moses, and the next day, they doubt Hashem. Is Hashem amongst us or not? And so that is at least to some level of comfort for us, because we are not on the level of the Israelites. So if we have a day of doubts and uncertainty, it's not like the end of the world or a big deal. We are, at the end of the day, we're just humans. And so those people were superhumans. They were gifted. They were naturally elevated. And so for them to witness what they have witnessed, their soul is, to a certain degree, extremely pure. But at the same level, or should I say, equally maybe, there is also that temptation to go to the other side. The thing is that where they're coming from is filled with darkness. And so this is why, like, the whole story of Beshalach leads us to Pesach. It's a little bit early, but it's coming fast. In less than 4 months, it's Pesach. So the story of Beshalach is the revelation of the 72 names, the 10 plagues, etc., manna, like all the beautiful miracles that we can draw into our lives. But it really is the story of Pesach. The story of Pesach is that the liberation of the Israelites from Egypt, it was not enough for Moses to say, hey, I'm coming to give you the freedom of the soul, the freedom of all pain and suffering. I'm giving you the connection to Arich Anpin. I'm giving you the connection to the highest of the highest. And they didn't want. It took convincing. It took a year, inclusive of the 10 plagues. It took an entire year, day after day, to show them there is something that is much greater, and this is where they're coming from. This is where their soul is coming from. And they're not destined to remain in the desert, which desert does not mean a geographical location. The desert is exile, the exile of the soul, dependency, addictions, suffering, and pain, emotional, spiritual, energetical, you name it. And so coming out of Egypt, if you remember the commentaries when you participated in the Passover event, the night of Pesach that they are basically at dawn, they're leaving Egypt, that was a taste, it was a pre-taste, it was a gift. They didn't earn it. It says clearly, leaving Egypt, the Israelites did not earn it. Crossing the desert for 49 days, that was their earning on Mount Sinai, the revelation of the Torah and the 10 Commandments. That was the epiphany, that was the ultimate of the revelation of light after they've earned. But that would have never happened if they didn't taste the light that they're experiencing right now coming out of Egypt. So it's like you would never want, cookie with the chocolate chips. You will never ask for it again when you go to that bakery, let's say, if you never tasted it. But once you tasted this incredible pastry or whatnot, you're going to look forward to try it again. And so the first time you received it as a gift, but the next time you have to buy it. It's like as if they took this example from the Torah and they applied it to all sorts of shopping malls and whatever, wherever you're they're selling food or ice cream. Like you always have this little cube of a taster. You can taste the food before you buy it, the chocolate or whatever. I was at the mall last week, and they were selling halva. It's a sort of a dessert, whatnot. And so I'm elbowing my wife gently, and I'm telling her, look, halva. And I'm like, am I craving halva? It's because, first of all, I love it, but I wouldn't love it if I didn't have it before. And they were smart. They had a tray full of tiny cubes. So obviously, I took a swing by and, grabbed a couple of cubes. They were delicious. I didn't end up buying, but maybe the next time that I'm going to see them, I'm going to probably buy a piece or whatnot. But this is the idea of something that is physical, something that is emotional, something you can even call something that is arising a sort of happy emotion. It can be happiness and excitement and love. It can be all sorts of things like that. So if you have never, my daughter, it was very hard for her. Anything that is new that she doesn't know well, it's very hard for her. And I rarely saw her as today. She was super scared and she was frightened and she was crying. until she jumped in the water. From the moment she was in, she went in the water, it was like, and already like tonight we came back home and she can't wait to go back. And this is the idea. The same way that you see it with children, it happens also with us. You wouldn't desire something with passion if you don't try it first. And so the thing with the Israelites is that their dependency to the 1%, to physicality, to idol worship, although it could be a religious connotation or word, it is something that we live on a daily basis, because we can have idol worship for a person, that we put on a pedestal, and we don't see ourselves being successful without this individual, or going to the next level without this individual, and the same with money, and the same with an emotion. Like if we don't feel self-confidence or self-esteem, then we feel that we cannot move forward in life. And this is how fear in this case would be the idol worship, is what is blocking us from, doing all sorts of things. And so the idol worship for the Israelites is doubts. But the doubt was instilled in them from the get-go. And the get-go was 200 years of slavery, where they forgot completely what spirituality is. Remember that prior to this whole story, we're talking about, their forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Those are the forefathers of the Israelites. And even though they were like the most spiritual and elevated individual, they are the chariots of Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, the top layers of Zeir Anpin. It got lost in translation over time. And time is our enemy. It is possible that an individual has done 10 years of good to you when you need it the most. And now this individual is going through a tough time, divorce, lost his job, depressed, whatnot, and he's acting out, and he's not being respectful, and he is being not kind to you, to your spouse, to your friends, to your dear ones. And you come to a moment, to a threshold where you say, I'm sorry, but I can't allow this. And we forget a lot of times all the good that people or individuals have done for us. And so I want us to keep this in mind, because this is the enemy that is being spoken about. But that enemy that is called Amalek again is not a nation that is related here. And so it says here why they were being punished. He answers, because they caused a separation between Atik and Zeir Anpin, and they did it by testing. So in other words, if the one is among us, we will ask in one form, and if that one, then we will ask in another form. So if you will, it's what I said earlier in the way that we're asking questions. In the way that we're asking questions, is it in a constructive way? Is it in a helpful way? Is it in an assisting way? Or is it in a question that is divisive? Is it a question that is creating space, that is causing another individual to question himself and his ability or her ability to perform, to complete, to achieve? And therefore, immediately, then came Amalek. So what I want to say with that is that it's not a coincidence that things happen in our life. That, we would perceive it as negative, but nothing is really negative. It's all cause and effect. So if for the past week, for the past month, for the past year, you have been working on yourself, on your connections, on your elevations, on purifying your desires and your thoughts and growing spiritually. But then something happens that, that made you drop the ball, or you were not as restricting as you should have, and that can give you like a punch in the stomach, and you're like defeated. You feel defeated for a bit, and the fact that we're building that consciousness around a negative event or situation is what eventually, ultimately, can draw its metaphorical equal, which means that if I have a positive outtake consciousness, looking at certain situations, people, observing the good, and making an effort at not judging the situation, and really making an effort at seeing the good, and how can I be helpful in that situation, etc. The situation that we are generating, the manifestation, the reality that we are manifesting is good. So immediately after they asked the questions that was coming from literally from the stake, because on the level of the righteous, it says the Creator is meticulous with the righteous. Hashem medagdek im hatzadikim. The Creator is meticulous with the righteous. So it means that if we do a shortcut, short circuit, whatnot, there would be cause and effect, but not to the degree that a righteous would do. If a righteous that has elevated to that level, Arik Anpin, Ain, and Zir Anpin, if that individual is asking a question that comes from the snake to inject, to infuse space and doubt, that person would pay a high price. Why? Because he's closer to the light. So the closer you are to the light, and the closer you can get burnt. The farther you are from the light, when you see, when you do a disconnect, you don't even realize, you don't even think that, it's going to have any ramification. Because in truth, it's not going to have that much ramification, because right now, you're not revealing that much light. But the closer that person is to the light, if that person switch, is, just, tempted to go to the other side, you are so close to the light. If you, that close to the light, you're attempting to doubt that light, then there is, the Zohar calls it here punishment, but it's not punishment, it's cause and effect. And time is becoming less of an illusion the closer you are to the light. Let me give an example. When you are with a person that you're excited to spend time with, that you're in love, that is a very good friend of yours, and you were looking forward to spend time, you're going to spend like 3-4 hours, and it's going to feel like 15 minutes. Time loses its idea of what times mean. But if you're closer to Malchut, if you're farther from the light, like you're dreading to go and meet with this person. You're going to see a member of a family, but you really don't want to see this family, but you have obligation, you have to. How many times we're going to look at the clock? We know that we needed to show up, but I can't wait to leave. You're going to spend 15 minutes, and it's going to feel like 4 hours. So when it says here, immediately, why does it say immediately for them and it's not immediate for us? For us, time is more of an illusion than somebody who is more elevated. Why? Because they're closer to the light. When you're closer to the light, there is less malchut, there is less physicality, there is less time, space, and motion. The same as when you're in love, or when you're excited, or you're doing something that you're passionate about, you're going to spend 10 hours and you're going to feel like no time has passed. So this is why time is relative in the way, to the extent that you're connected to the light, or to the extent that you're close or far from the light. And they were very close to the light. And because they did that disconnect by asking the question that didn't come from the best consciousness, they saw immediate cause and effect. And that immediate cause and effect is what? Amalek. Amalek, which if you use the same letters, so Amalek is the numerology of Safek, which means doubt. From the moment that you instill doubt in anything, that's when the free fall begins. It can be in a business, it can be in any type of relationship, in marriage, in romance, in a project that you're looking for, that you worked on for so long. If doubt comes in, it's game over. And so it is a week with a lot of potential for miracles and a lot of potential for us to also be kind to ourselves, because if they fell and they have reached such level of Yudke Vavke, of Ayin and whatnot, so what does it make us? So already be kind to ourselves when we fall, not to go into the guilt and into the resentment. And I'm saying, like, I don't also enjoy when you disconnect, like try to also make an effort to not fall again. And so also to have in mind, to keep in mind that when I'm asking somebody a question, if it is to your employee, if it is to your spouse, to your girlfriend, to your boyfriend, to your child, where's the question coming from? This is like so basic, but we don't necessarily think about it. Time to time, I think about it. And you know what? I'm catching myself here and there. And sometimes the temptation is so hard that I go along with a question that I knew wasn't coming from the right place. And it doesn't cause the other person to feel good. And so it's not rocket science. If your question causes an individual to feel not good or to self-doubt, that didn't come from the light. And you have that power, you have that potential to convey through your questions light or the opposite of light. I don't want to say darkness, because at the end of the day, darkness does not exist. Why? Because it's like a switch. From the moment in your consciousness that you turn on the light, darkness is gone, and science doesn't know how to explain where did the darkness go. You turn on the switch, where is the darkness? It disappears. Why is it disappearing like this? We're not magicians. The answer is darkness, spiritual darkness. Physical darkness, yes, but spiritual darkness does not exist. So wait, sadness, low self-esteem, depression, heartbroken, feeling abandoned or rejected or isolated or alone doesn't exist? Of course, it does exist in the level of Malchut, but as soon as we elevate our consciousness with positivity, with practice of being positive and hopeful and dreamful, it takes practice. And to fall down doesn't take any practice. It's very easy to fall. You don't require any effort to fall. Any questions?
Yehuda,
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you both for showing up when you're tired. You know, if you were feeling drained from today, that you showed up anyway, and for helping us through all of this. If I were to read this for the rest of my life, I could never come up with the proper meaning. So I'm really grateful for what you draw and share for us.
You're very welcome. And it is, you should know that it is very important for me to show up, it's very selfish, actually. You think that it's for you, it's entirely for me. So I'm very happy to show up, and I wouldn't miss it unless I have coronavirus, which I did. So any questions, guys? Are we good for tonight?
I hope you feel better, Yehuda.
I am. I just have some residual cough, but I'm much better. Much better. Thank you. All right, guys. So I'll see you next week. Same time, same place.
Thank you, Yehuda.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.